Makes sense. So I can't tell you exactly what will happen to the cost of the monthly permits because we've got to evaluate all that. But we definitely want off-street to be the best bang for the buck for long-term parkers, people that are going to be here all day that work down here, and the street, especially on retail streets, to be high turnover and available for customers, not the workers.
And we need to make sure that we balance the monthly permits and still have room for customers. So we still wouldn't want this to be all filled up with just office workers all day long and then not have some of the floors available for customers or have enough stalls for them. So playing around with that balance is inherent in the term parking management. You manage your parking. And what we've done, I would say for decades, is not really manage it. We just come up with a fee and that's what we charge, and we don't really look to see if that's discouraging parking or encouraging it or have some left over for maybe residents. And it's a very, I would say, non-thinking system we have right now. So going forward, it needs to be managed. Yes, sir?
The parking garages, like you want to bring the price down. Is this publicly, privately owned?
This is publicly owned. This is owned by the city of Fresno.
Okay, so they can control the price.
Yeah, so we control it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So the company that runs it works for us, and so yeah, we.
And that money, the revenue.
Right.
Goes
There are a few garages that are private, like for example, the one that we talked about when we were at Mariposa Plaza, that's privately owned. Right. So there are a few that are privately owned, but the bulk of what you see, this one, the one on Tulare Street by the ballpark, the one on Merced and Van Ness, the city owns and controls all of those. And so since we control most of that, and some surface lots too, we're able to make it all work if we put our wits, toward it and really come up with something good. We're able to make it all work together as a sensible system.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who paying for parking is a deal breaker, and that's the reason that they won't come down here.
Yeah, and that's why having, not giving away the prime spaces and just clogging up with employees while still having a free option for folks is, a key part of a good strategy.
Well, we keep talking about parking, which assumes cars. How about alternative ways of getting to downtown? Because I could see this getting choked up with traffic, right, which would also prevent people from wanting to come downtown.
I don't agree with that premise entirely, but
well, and it may be a false premise, and it may be a false premise, right? But also, every time I've come downtown, and I just moved here about 2 weeks ago, thank you. I've tried to bring the bus down here, and I don't live that far. I live by Fresno High. Today I would have to leave my place at 7:50 to get here at 8:20 to hang out for 40 minutes to do this, right? So, I think that there's value in having available parking, but there's also value in having people be able to get downtown to do things without having to do the car.
I'm glad you brought that up. So I want to touch on a couple of things. So first is we want as many people as possible to live here, so they're just walking. Right. And we want to make walking, top priority for everything. So that's one mode of transportation that we're really, really focused on. Number two is biking. Some people, like I live in Tower District, so I'm probably pretty close to you. Perfect biking distance. Right. So let's get bike lanes on the roads, on the streets that need them. Let's focus on getting good bike parking so that people feel secure coming down here and having a visible, secure area where we have a plan for that too. Transit is really key. Some people live beyond walking or biking distance, but they'd still rather not drive if they don't have to. So what we have under construction right now is Fresno's first two bus rapid transit routes. So the bus in Fresno is typically 2, 3, 4 times longer than making the same trip by car. People have a choice, typically don't choose the bus if they don't have to because of that. And so the bus rapid transit is going to be a huge part of fixing that. So it's going to start at River Park in North Fresno, come all the way down Blackstone, about 8.5, 9 miles. It'll have its main depot at Van Ness and Mariposa, that's what that construction is. And then it'll loop out and go out the Kings Canyon or Ventura and Kings Canyon corridor all the way to Clovis Avenue. So you have those two important suburban corridors with service converging in downtown. What's great about that, and what's going to completely change the transit paradigm on those two corridors, is that right now in Fresno the buses come usually every 30 minutes, some routes every 45 minutes. We do have a few 20-minute routes, but mostly it's 30 minutes. So if you miss that bus, you're stuck there for a half hour. It's terrible. It makes transfers terrible because you're going to be stuck waiting a long time. So so transfers aren't a good idea in that kind of system. BRT will come every 10 minutes. So that's when you start to really see big ridership gains, and you see people not need a schedule because, hey, if I miss this one 10 minutes, that's no big deal. I'll wait for the next one. The stations are going to be spread out to every half mile. Right now we have stations every block or two, so every 200, 300, 400, 500 feet. Now we're going to go to every half mile. Now what that means is the whole corridor is still only a 5-minute walk from these stations, because people will typically walk a half mile or a quarter mile for really good transit. So the whole corridor is still covered, but because it's only stopping every half mile instead of every eighth of a mile or less, that really picks up the speeds. The stations, all the construction you see on Blackstone, that's because the stations actually bump out to the travel lane. So the bus will be traveling in the outermost travel lane, and the station will come out to it. So what that means is it doesn't have to duck out of traffic, park at the curb, fight its way back into traffic. All that costs time, slows it down. That's why the bus can't compete with cars. Now the bus will just stop. Sorry guys, if you're behind the bus, you're just gonna have to wait a second for people to get on and off, and then the bus keeps going. It doesn't have to fight its way back into traffic. It'll have signal preemption. So if it's coming up on a red light, it turns green, the bus keeps going. The payment system will be different than the current payment system. So instead of getting on the bus and paying on the bus, everybody does that, slows it down. Instead, now you're gonna pay at the station, you have a ticket, and you just get on. Bus driver doesn't even check it. And then every so often, someone comes through, hey, show me your ticket, make sure you paid, and if you don't, you're gonna have to answer for that. And that makes the boarding process fast, fast, fast. So now, to make that same trip from North Fresno into downtown, or from Clovis and Kings Canyon into downtown, competitive with the car now, about the same time. And so that totally changes the paradigm. And then on other key routes, we're trying to put a grid of high frequency routes that aren't quite as good as BRT, but way better than the current fax routes. So we're looking at Shaw, Cedar, Wishawn, Van Ness, Maroa, through the Tower District, all as also high frequency routes that are every 10 or 15 minutes. Don't have all the goodies that BRT has, but still way better than the current fax routes. So hopefully over time, it'll make it, like for you and me in Tower, old Fresno High area, way easier to get into downtown, and it'll make it for people along those other corridors way easier too. So we're trying to hit it from every angle, and hopefully over time, not everybody coming here is coming with a car that we have to park. Yeah.
Now, with the new...
I think, I'll get you, and then, yeah, I'll get you next.
The BRT originally had long buses.
The articulated buses.
Articulated,
right.
And they shrunk them down. Mm-hmm. And they were going to offer you to bring your bike on the bus. Are they still doing that with hooks?
I can't remember how the bike part coming onto the bus is handled. I have to apologize for that. The first buses will not be articulated. They'll be pretty good sized buses, really good looking, very fast, but not the articulated ones. If this thing goes over like gangbusters though, and we need to add buses to keep up the service, I would imagine those would potentially be articulated if all goes well.
Would the same rates apply as like a regular fax bus, or would the prices change?
I can't remember what the fares are going to be.
And then the second question
I
is
think they're going to be the same.
Is our Fresno State students will be able to go on for free still?
Yeah, that's not going to change.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a bicycle parking, in the plan.
Yeah, so we're looking at, in areas where we control, the sidewalk areas, the public streets. We're looking for opportunities to put in, nice bike racks that are highly visible and secure at key locations. And then also in the code, there are requirements for large office buildings to have off-street, in the building, secure parking areas for people that live or work there. Ditto for apartment buildings. We rather than requiring only car parking, we require bike parking too. on site for people that live there. So yeah, we're approaching it from both of those points of view. So when buildings come in, make sure they address their needs, and then the public areas that we control, add that over time too. Sir.
When this thing started, there were a couple $1 million short. Has that been made up, or is that?
Yes, so it's fully funded. The budget's $20 million, not a penny over is the direction from the city council, and so yeah, it's fully funded.
Yeah, they made some changes that I think are actually good changes. They took out, this was going to be have traffic lights, and now it'll just be a four-way stop. And from a planning standpoint, I'd rather have a four-way stop. So that was an easy way to cut. Some of the lights, I just noticed this is a new light. They were going to do all kinds of crazy things like change colors and all that stuff, which I've actually never seen in another downtown. So we cut out some of the fringe stuff. All we really want lights to do is light up the area. We don't have to make it more tricky than that.
Look pretty and
right?
make it feel safe. Right?
Yeah, right. And yeah, you don't even really want to notice them all that much. So those are LED lights. That's cool. I just noticed while you were talking.
Now, speaking of that, are they going to uniform the street furniture / lighting systems throughout the downtown area?
We're looking at that right now. There's a lot in place that we don't want to necessarily get rid of. Like if you look down Inyo here, those the historic pineapple lights. And so we're looking at doing an inventory right now of what we've got and what's in good shape, what's working, what's great, and then other areas we don't have such good lighting. There's just you know, the highway style Cobra head lamps. There's no pedestrian lighting, and so we're still fleshing that out. That's not part of this specific plan and zoning code. That'll come, and just we're going to update our public works standards. But yeah, we're looking at that because we want to have for all the different parts of downtown. There might be variety from mural district to the Fulton area to the Civic Center area, but we want to have a good standard in place so when we do street work, we do upgrade, we know exactly what we're going and we don't have to worry about it and kind of fuss about what's it going to be. But that's not part of this stuff that we're taking in October. That's separate work that we're working on in parallel. Any other?
All right, well, we've gone, okay, Omar,
Is this the building where the market's going to go into?
Yes. Yes, so so this is a city parking garage, but the ground floor is a big retail space that used to be part of Gotchak's next door. And so, yeah, this is phase one of the public market is in this ground floor space in our garage. It's massive in there. It's got a huge underground part two and a little mezzanine area. It's massive. So that's all underway. Same developer. We're working with them on this parking lot. So as soon as it's done serving this purpose, as a yard for the construction project, then you're going to see a 5-story mixed-use building with about 50 apartments and ground floor retail go in on that spot.
Right across from a grocery market.
Yeah, perfect, right? What a great place to live. So every morning, hey, what are we going to eat tonight? Oh, I'll go grab that at the market, you know? So that could be really great. And some of the units will have a view into the ballpark, so which is really exciting. So that'll be a neat place to live.